My mom hid my car keys so I couldn't vaccinate my daughter. When I confronted her, she threatened to take her away. So I revealed my sister's secret, and my parents sold everything I owned as revenge. I'm 20 years old. I work in retail since I was 18, and what happened with my parents basically forced me to flee from my own house with my 1-year-old daughter in my arms because they threatened to take her away from me. I know how it sounds, like a telenovela drama or something, but I need to tell this story because there are still days when I wake up and can't believe all of this actually happened. I guess I should start from the beginning, when I got pregnant at 18. I'm not going to get into all the details of how it happened or who the father was because honestly, that part doesn't matter anymore. The guy disappeared when he found out, and I never saw him again. What does matter is that I decided to have my baby, Charlotte, and my parents at the time said they would support me. Margaret, my mom, even cried when I told her I was pregnant, and hugged me, and said everything was going to be okay. That family supports each other. My dad, Stephen, didn't say much. He never really says much, to be honest. But he nodded and said, I would always have a place in his house. At that moment I thought, okay, this is going to work. I can do this. Charlotte was born when I was 19, and the first few months were difficult, obviously. You know, newborn baby, me not finishing college, working part-time at a clothing store in the mall. I had been living with a friend, but after giving birth, things got complicated financially and, well, I ended up back at my parents' house. I didn't have many options, honestly. I paid what I could for rent, like $200 a month, which was almost everything I earned after diapers and formula. But my parents said it was fine, not to worry. That's what families did. The first few months living with them were okay, I guess. My mom helped me with Charlotte when I worked. My dad installed a crib in my old room, and things worked. But when Charlotte turned 1, something changed. I don't know if it was that Charlotte was no longer an adorable newborn baby, or what? But my mom started making comments. First, it was about my weight, that I had gained like 15 kilos with the pregnancy, and hadn't lost it all. One day, I was eating cereal in the kitchen, and she came in and said, Don't you think it's time you got back to your normal weight? Charlotte is already a year old. You can't use pregnancy as an excuse forever. And I was like, what? But I laughed uncomfortably and said something like, yeah, Mom, I'm working on it. But then the comments continued. About my clothes, about how I styled Charlotte's hair, about what I fed her, about everything, basically. And my dad never said anything. He just sat there reading the newspaper or watching TV, as if none of that was happening. That dynamic had always existed in my family. Mom was the one in charge, and Dad just went along. My older sister Melissa had left home at 22 to study in San Diego and basically never came back, and I was starting to understand why. Things got worse when my mom joined this neighborhood club, like a mom group but for 50-year-old ladies who have nothing better to do. She started going to these meetings every week and came back with the craziest ideas. Suddenly, she was obsessed with organic food, with Charlotte not eating anything processed, with me needing to do yoga, with me needing to look more presentable, because what were the neighbors going to think? She literally told me that, what will the neighbors think if they see you like this? As if anyone really cared how I looked. At 3 in the afternoon picking up the mail, she started controlling everything. If I took something out of the fridge to eat, she would come and tell me, do you really need that? If I put Charlotte in a dress she hadn't approved, she made me change her. If I wanted to go out with Charlotte to the park, she would ask what time I'd be back and why I needed to go out. Wasn't the backyard enough? We lived in a place with hot weather, like lots of sun all year round, and she insisted that Charlotte shouldn't be outside much because she would get too dark. Yes, she said that verbatim, worried that her 1-year-old granddaughter would get dark from the sun. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry with this woman anymore, but the breaking point, the moment I knew things were really bad, was when Charlotte had to get her 1-year vaccines. I had made the appointment with the pediatrician, all normal, and the morning of the appointment my mom hid my car keys. Just like that. Me searching all over the house like crazy because we were going to be late, and her sitting in the living room drinking coffee like nothing. I asked her mom, have you seen my keys? And she very calmly said, you're not going to take Charlotte to get those chemicals injected. I've been researching and vaccines cause autism. I froze. What? I said, Mom, that's not true. That's been debunked 1,000 times. Charlotte needs her vaccines. and she stood up and told me, "As long as you live in my house, and I take care of your daughter, you're not going to poison her with those things." I found my keys hidden in her purse. She had literally taken them while I was sleeping, and I had the worst fight with her. My dad, of course, didn't say anything. He just went to his study and closed the door. In the end, I managed to get out of the house with Charlotte and take her to her appointment. But when I got back, my parents didn't talk to me for 3 days. 3 days of total silence, as if I were invisible. After that, I started looking for ways to leave. But with what I earned at the store, it was impossible to rent anything. The cheapest apartments in the area cost like $800 a month, and I was earning like $1,200 before taxes. I had no savings because everything went to Charlotte. I had nowhere to go. I had no options. I felt trapped. And the worst part is, my parents knew it. My mom started saying things like, "You're lucky we let you stay here. Any other family would have kicked you out already." Or, "You know how much it costs to support you in Charlotte. You should be grateful." Things reached their limit like 2 months after the vaccine incident. I had been trying to follow all their ridiculous rules to keep the peace, but one day my mom decided Charlotte needed a haircut. Charlotte had beautiful curly hair, like natural curls that I loved, and my mom wanted to cut it really short because she said it looked messy. I told her no, that Charlotte's hair was fine like that, and she exploded. She told me I was ungrateful, that I didn't know how to raise a daughter, that Charlotte was going to grow up being a mess if I kept making the decisions. And then she said something I'll never forget. She said, "If you're not going to follow our rules and raise Charlotte properly, then maybe we should consider putting her up for adoption to a family that can actually take care of her." She said it just like that, super casual, as if she were suggesting what to have for dinner. My dad was there and added, "Your mother is right. You're not ready to be a mother. Maybe Charlotte would be better off with another family." I couldn't breathe. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. Were they threatening to take my daughter away? Really? I yelled at them, "You can't do that. Charlotte is my daughter. You can't force me to give her up for adoption." And my mom very calmly said, "We can do whatever is necessary to protect that child from an incompetent mother. If you don't keep living under our rules, we'll take the necessary measures." I was shaking with rage and fear at the same time. I didn't know if they could actually do anything legally. Probably not. But the fact that they had said it terrified me. And in that moment of pure courage and desperation, I said something I had promised never to say. I yelled at them, "You know what? Melissa got married 2 years ago and didn't even invite you to the wedding because she hates you. She's married to a guy who has the restaurant in San Diego and never told you because she knew you'd ruin everything like you ruin everything else." The silence after that was thick. My mom went pale and my dad finally reacted, stood up and said, "What did you say?" And I couldn't stop anymore. I told them everything. That Melissa had married Andrew 2 years ago, that they had a nice house, that she was happy far away from them, that I had gone to the wedding and it was beautiful, and they weren't there because she didn't want them there. That she had made me promise I would never tell them because she didn't want them to be part of her life. My mom started crying, but not from sadness, but from rage, screaming, "How dare I, that we were both ungrateful, that after everything they had done for us, this is how we repaid them." My dad told me to leave the house, that I had until the next day to pack my things and get out. I said, "Where am I supposed to go?" And my mom screamed, "I don't care. Go to the street if you want. But you're not going to keep living here." I locked myself in my room with Charlotte, who was crying because obviously she could feel all the tension, and I didn't know what to do. I called Melissa crying. It was like 10 at night, and told her everything between sobs. She was quiet for a moment, and then said, "Pack what you can right now. I'm coming." I told her, "Melissa, you live 6 hours away. You can't come all the way here just because I had a fight with them." And she said, "It's not just a fight, Isabella. They threatened to take your daughter away. I'm coming, and the 3 of us are leaving." I didn't sleep all night. I packed the essentials. Clothes for me and Charlotte, her favorite toys, important documents, whatever fit in 2 suitcases. I could hear my parents arguing in their room, my mom crying and screaming about how both her daughters had betrayed her. Part of me felt guilty for revealing Melissa's secret, but another part thought, why should I feel guilty when they literally threatened to take my daughter away? Melissa arrived like at 7 in the morning, drove all night. She knocked on the door really loud, and when my mom opened, My sister came in like a hurricane. I hadn't seen her in person in almost a year, and she looked so different, more mature, more confident. She told my mom, "Is it true you threatened to take Charlotte away from Isabella?" And my mom started with her usual drama, crying and saying it was all a misunderstanding, that they just wanted what was best for the baby. Melissa didn't let her continue. She said, "Isabella and Charlotte are coming with me to San Diego today." Mom started saying no, that Charlotte needed to be with her family, that I couldn't take care of her alone. And Melissa literally laughed and said, "Family? You think you're family after threatening to force Isabella to give her daughter up for adoption? You're both sick." My dad appeared then and told Melissa she was ungrateful. How dare she get married without telling them that we were the worst daughters in the world. And Melissa ignored him completely, went upstairs to my room, grabbed the suitcases and told me, "Let's go." We went downstairs with Charlotte in my arms, my parents blocking the door trying to prevent us from leaving, my mom begging, crying, saying Charlotte was her granddaughter and they had a right to see her. Melissa told her, "You lost any right when you threatened Isabella. Move away from the door." It was the most surreal scene of my life, like a dramatic movie, but real. Getting out of the house was chaotic. My mom tried to grab Charlotte from my arms and I had to physically pull away. Melissa practically pushed me toward her car, a 2020 silver Honda Accord. I remember the car perfectly because it was like our escape vehicle. The three of us got in, well, the four of us counting Charlotte, and Melissa drove off while my parents screamed from the entrance. My mom ran behind the car for half a block screaming, "Wait, please." We went straight to a motel. Melissa said we needed to be away from them before driving the 6 hours to San Diego. In the motel room, after Charlotte fell asleep, Melissa hugged me, and I cried like I hadn't cried in months. I kept telling her, I'm sorry for telling them about your marriage." And she told me, "It doesn't matter, Isabella. They were going to find out someday anyway. What's important is that you and Charlotte are safe." Then she told me something I wasn't expecting. She said, "I'm pregnant. I'm 3 months along." And she started crying too. She said she had wanted to tell our parents eventually, that despite everything, there was still a part of her that wanted to share that news with them. But that after what they had done to me, after seeing how they treated me, she knew she had made the right decision to keep them out of her life. She told me, "I don't want my child to know people like that, and Charlotte shouldn't have to deal with them either." We stayed at the motel for 2 days while Melissa organized everything for me to move in with her. She called her husband Andrew, who, by the way, is the nicest guy in the world, and he said of course we could stay with them as long as necessary. They had a guest room we could use. I was still in shock, like I couldn't believe all of this was happening. While we were at the motel, my parents sent me like 50 messages. First angry ones, saying it was illegal for me to take things from the house, that they were going to call the police. Then begging ones, saying we should talk, that we could resolve this. Then threatening again, saying they were going to fight for custody of Charlotte. I didn't respond to any of them. Melissa advised me to block their numbers, but I couldn't. There was still that part of me that thought maybe they would apologize, maybe they would recognize what they had done wrong. When we finally went back to the house with police to pick up the rest of my things, because Melissa insisted we go with police present, we discovered my parents had sold everything. Everything. Charlotte's furniture, her crib, her toys, my clothes, my books, everything I had left in my room. My mom said that since I had left and abandoned my things, she assumed I didn't want them anymore. The police officer couldn't do anything because technically it was their property being in their house. I lost photos, memories, things from when Charlotte was a newborn that I'll never get back. Melissa had to hold me back so I wouldn't lunge at my mom. I had never felt so much rage in my life. I screamed everything at her, told her she was a horrible person. How could she do that to her own daughter and granddaughter? She just stood there with a victim face, saying I had chosen to leave, that this was a consequence of my decisions. My dad didn't even look at us. He stayed inside the house the whole time. The trip to San Diego was long but also kind of liberating in a way. Melissa drove and I was in the back, with Charlotte, watching. As we got further away from that city, from that house, from everything I had known, it was scary but also exciting. You know what I mean? Like when you know you're doing something big and risky but necessary. Melissa and Andrew's house is beautiful, like Magazine House, in a quiet neighborhood near the beach. Andrew greeted us with a hug and told Charlotte, Welcome, princess. That night we ate pizza, and for the first time in months I felt relaxed. There was no one judging what I ate, no one making comments about my weight or my clothes, no one telling me I was raising my daughter wrong. Andrew turned out to be even more amazing than Melissa had told me. He has this super elegant Italian restaurant, like those where they make fresh pasta and have expensive wines. And like a week after being there, he offered me a job. He said he needed waitresses, and if I was interested, the pay was good plus tips. I had no experience in fine dining restaurants, but he said he would train me, that what was important was the attitude. I started working there, and it turns out I'm a good waitress. The tips at a restaurant like that are incredible, like I was earning in 3 days what I earned in a week at the clothing store. Andrew was flexible with my schedule because he knew I had Charlotte, and Melissa helped me by taking care of her when I worked. It was like this support system I had never had with my parents, where instead of feeling like a burden, I felt part of a team. My parents kept trying to contact me. Calls, messages, emails. Eventually, they changed strategy and started asking to see Charlotte. They said that no matter what had happened between us, they were her grandparents and had a right to meet their granddaughter. My mom sent long messages saying they missed me, that they wanted to fix things, that Charlotte needed her grandparents. I told them no. Simple. I don't want them to know Charlotte. I don't want them in our lives. I don't want to talk to them again. It was hard to say, but also liberating. Melissa supported me completely, said it was my decision, and that she had also made the same decision with her future child. Our parents weren't going to meet any of their grandchildren because they had shown they didn't know how to love without controlling. I lived with Melissa and Andrew for like 6 months. During that time, I saved enough to rent my own apartment, a small but nice place, like 15 minutes from their house. Andrew helped me with the deposit, said he would deduct it from my salary little by little but without interest, like a family loan. I cried when I signed the lease. It was the first time in my life I had my own place, my own space where no one was going to judge or control me. Charlotte is 2 now. Goes to a daycare near my work that Andrew helped me pay for. Eventually, I'm going to pay him back. Everything. He's lent me. I have it all written down. She's a happy, bright child, with her beautiful curls that no one is going to force me to cut. Melissa had her baby 3 months ago, a boy named Lucas, and he's the cutest nephew in the world. Seeing my sister as a mom, seeing how she raises Lucas with love and without control, makes me understand even more how toxic our parents were. Sometimes I feel guilty. Like I think, should I give them a chance? Am I a bad daughter for cutting them off completely? But then I remember how they threatened to take Charlotte away from me, how they sold all our things, how they made me feel like a failure every day. And the guilt goes away. I don't owe them anything, and I'm definitely not going to give them access to my daughter so they can do to her what they did to me. My parents stopped trying to contact me like 2 months ago. I don't know if they gave up or what, but the silence is honestly a relief. Melissa says they'll eventually try again, that people like them never really give up. But for now, I'm enjoying the peace. I work 4 or 5 shifts a week at the restaurant, earn enough to pay rent and take care of Charlotte. I'm saving up to eventually go back to college, even if it's online. Andrew says when I'm ready, he can help me get into the restaurant business more seriously, like learning management or something. Melissa and I are closer than ever. Our children are going to grow up together. They're going to be like siblings. Is my life perfect? No. I'm still a 20-year-old single mom working as a waitress. There are still difficult days. I still miss some things from before everything exploded. But Charlotte is happy and safe. I'm healing from years of emotional abuse that I hadn't recognized as such, and I'm building something new. Yesterday, Charlotte told me, "Mommy, I love you," while I was putting her to bed, and I realized she's never going to grow up feeling inadequate or controlled like I did. That makes everything worth it.